And off we go. Hey guys, morning to
Hello.
you. Happy afternoon from me. How's everybody doing? Alex, how's your day going so far?
Great start to my morning. I know you're almost done with your day, though. A little jealous.
Yes, it's nice to kind of get the week is almost over. Things are actually not quieting down. They're more lively at the end of the week for some reason this week. I've got a ton of meetings, but doing Twitch was one of my favorite things to do. And Shaown, how's your day going so far?
A little chaotic, which is how my mornings tend to go. I'm excited for us Americans. It's about to be a long weekend, so I'm like, escape is
Yes.
imminent.
Yes, I always forget. I feel like we seem to have a lot of bank holidays close together in the UK. And then someone said to me, like, you could just say you had a bank holiday and I would believe you because I have no idea what's going on. I never even know when they are or what they're for. Your ones are more kind of claritative about why you're having a bank holiday.
I mean, Steph,
Okay.
this holiday is all about you. We're celebrating our freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I just personally offended that nobody wants to come and work and spend any time with me. They want to leave the British. So I'll try not to take it personally on Monday when no one's online. Cool. All right, so let's get started. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your cost optimization at AWS. I'm one of your hosts, Stephanie Gooch, and I'm a kind of cloud financial management expert somewhat. I've been working in the field for about 2-3 years and previously come from a DevOps engineering background. So definitely come from that kind of more codey, techie background, but then moved into the financial area.
Yes, and I am Alex. I have a team of people that do things that Steph does and help our largest customers at AWS save money and become more efficient. I've been here almost 4 years. And our special guest today is Shaown, who was one of my first customers when I joined AWS over at Dow Jones. So Shaown, you want to give us your 1 minute background, how you ended up in this crazy AWS world?
Absolutely. I don't even know where to start. It's been such an interesting journey. So I am responsible for our technical teams at AWS for a set of our largest customer strategic accounts. So for those who know AWS, it's our solution architects, our customer solutions managers. But what brought me here, the journey that started me, was when I was at Dow Jones, aka News Corp, which is our parent company. I was hired to run cloud engineering and cloud transformation. And for those who've heard of Dow Jones, we were a media company famous for publishing the Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Market Watch. Our parent News Corp has the Time, the Sunday Times, the Sun, bunch of newspapers, bunch of interesting business-to-business properties. And many years back in 2014 or so, News Corp committed to save $100 million and move all of their workloads to the cloud. And I'll tell you, it doesn't feel as crazy now, but it was a novel concept back then. And I was on the outside looking in and going, who are these people? And they're going to move their HR systems and their finance systems. And, we don't use the term anymore, but back then News Corp said, we only consider the cloud to be the public cloud. And they were talking about AWS, of course. So I chased them down and said, I want to work with you. They brought me in to run cloud engineering, cloud transformation. And as I tell everyone, you work on cloud, you're going to zip, zoom ahead. I became CIO, which was an awesome journey. And a big part of that journey was not just helping our executive team build faster, come up with new product concepts, but also do it in a way that made our partners in finance excited, happy, save lots of money, much of that through optimization. And that's how I got to meet Alex and team. And of course, from there, I ended up at AWS. That's its own story, a fun story, which you can interrogate me on and how I got convinced. But yeah, that's my 1 minute origin story.
Awesome. Well, I actually didn't know how you had gotten rolling on the cloud stuff at Dow Jones. That's really interesting. So we have Shaown today to add some interesting perspective from optimization, from his former role as CIO at Dow Jones and how he was able to make that cultural FinOps shift. And then also through the essays that he works with today of how he helps them integrate it into what they do with their customers. And really how it's not as scary as it seems doing company-wide optimization. A lot of our conversations that we've done so far have been a lot about like what one-off thing or what can you do as an engineer to save money. And today we're going to really shift to see, all right, how do we get everyone to save money, right? How do we become more efficient as a whole? And one of the things that Shaown really helped with when I worked with Dow Jones. And I was just trying to find, I wonder if can I share my screen, Steph?
Yeah.
Let's see. All right, I'll do a quick screen share, but I just found let's see, screen one. I swear, see, we do this on a fly. Am I sharing? All right. This is me presenting to Shaown at Dow Jones, my second ever customer trip at AWS. I just found it, thought I would do a throwback. But there was a huge shift there. Instead of just showing Shaown all these different recommendations of save money here, here, and here, he pushed us to teach. And so I want you to dive in a little bit to that, Shaown, and also Steph, where you've been able to impact your customers of how was that shift for you? What made you gravitate to that? And what was the impact?
Yeah, so I'll wax poetic on this until one of you cuts me off, which you should absolutely do. When I get too deep, I love to talk. It started with actually using an Amazon LP, and I didn't know I was using it. When I got to Dow Jones, there was an amazing set of DevOps folks, that's what we called them at the time, our cloud COE, who were going and helping keep our infrastructure safe, help us build out new workloads, et cetera. No one was really looking at the optimization side. And part of it was the speed. We're going so fast, zoom, building new workloads, right? And we'd had a few consultants who built some reports, and we had a few tools. And so the story starts with me learning about diving deep, which was everyone was working on so much critical stuff. I personally wanted to dive in and figure out, could we buy our eyes? Does this make sense? Is there underutilized infrastructure? Can we build some better reports? And a lot of the things that Alex would later come teach, we were trying to do. And we actually had pretty good success, saved a bunch of money. But what I quickly learned was no matter how much quick impact you can have by doing that, one person, two people, you can only go so far. And it's a bit of a losing, the tide is against you because there's always new stuff being built. And what you really need are what we at Amazon love to refer to as mechanisms that will let you sort of continue to continuously revisit, improve, and evolve. And when I met Alex, I was like, oh my goodness, I can just go and take a nap during the day if I can get Alex to go and teach the teams how to do this. And more than that, it's like it's like planting seeds. Once people get excited about it, we can talk about some of the things, Alex, that you helped inspire to do that. I won't have to police it. They'll want to do it. I won't be freaking out on a Friday night before quarter end because Dow Jones is an externally related company. We look at costs and go, oh my God, our bill went up unexpectedly. Why? Is this bad? Is this good? Are there credits coming? What's happening? And so I met you, Alex. We talked about some of the ideas you had, which I think everyone would love to hear about. And I said, the biggest win for me is if I can get these to take root and not have to do them myself. So we can go from there. Talk about
Yeah. I definitely want to hear some of these things from Alex. They sound like great things.
Well, and Steph, Steph, one of the things that she's really gotten to be known for on our team is not just handing a customer where they can save, but then giving them a CloudFormation template or something that they can just put in place so they never have to worry about it again. And so taking that, almost teaching to the next level and making sure. And Steph, I'm interested, not to put you on the spot, but what's the next optimization piece that you're going to take that teach to fish and automate for our customers? Pressure's on.
So this is going to be like a shout out to the well-architected labs, which I go on about all the time, and I'll share a link to that in the chat in a minute. But the labs, I've got a new one in the pipeline, which is about cost optimization data in general. So pulling in metrics of, let's take your EBS utilization, for example, like what you're using, what sizes you're using, how much you're doing them for, and automatically collecting them. So it goes back to that point, Shaown, that you was mentioning. Like, just by me going to an account and saying, oh, these 10 volumes are too big, or they're using GP2, or they're underutilized, that's one thing. But then if you've got 300 other accounts in your organization, that's too much effort to go and manually look at them. So having that automation to go and grab all that data, have it in one place, and be able to review it is the next step. So keep an eye out for those in the labs. But yeah, Alex, come on, share with us, what were these golden things that you told Shaown to do?
So there's a couple of things. So we did, Gosh, I still go back to these stories. It's kind of crazy. Some of them, number one, we did scheduling. So we put in place instance schedulers to bring up and down the production, non-production environments. And then the second one was Spot. And really what we did was kind of hands-on hackathon feel of let's look at all the cool aspects of Spot, and then challenged everyone in the room to find a use case for it. And then it kind of took off from there. I think those were really like the two biggest jumps that we had. Shaown, am I missing one, or?
You're missing a few because you don't realize that you actually helped bring people. I think it was sort of a joint effort. We'd spent a lot of time building credibility by sort of executing on what you and Steph talked about, which was having initial recommendations. So the finance team and the engineering team said, you know how to save money. You can do these RIs. You can go optimize X. You figured out that these are underutilized instances, orphan DPS volumes. But what we didn't have was a way to make them care. So there was a ton of gamification that went on. And I think that gamification for us went in these two distinct two sides of a coin almost. One was making them compete with each other. Like who could save more money? Who could come up with a better concept? And you had a really good mechanism, Alex. I can't remember what you called it actually, but it was sort of game day like, where we had a hackathon session. FinHack. So we should talk about FinHack. But one of the things that led to FinHack was also by starting out and saying, here's how you can measure what you're spending. And it was really gorpy at first, right? To go back and say, okay, I'm measuring how much an instance costs. I know how much an account costs, but what product or engineering team does it belong to? And that was not a concept we had, because in the legacy world, when you bought infrastructure and you bought licenses, you had it. You had it for 4 or 5 years. It wasn't changing. So you might make a decision up front to buy it and have some big discussion about capital, but you didn't go back and check every month to see how it had changed, because it didn't change. You had 27 boxes for this team and 31 licenses, and it was what it was. And so it was a big mental model shift with our finance team and our engineering team to say, how do we sort of show these costs to engineers? And then to gamify it, how do we show it in a way that it means something to them, and then make them compete over who can save more? Our CTO at the time, who was my partner in crime, loved this, probably because he used to be CIO. And he was so intense on saying, we're going to reward people who go get ahead. And it wasn't just about like rewarding them monetarily. It was like, we're going to call them out and embarrass them at big meetings about their awesome accomplishments. And so I think you should talk about FinHack, Alex, because that was the one that just took me by. I hadn't even thought about that angle on things when you came in and brought it over.
Yeah, so basically, and AWS still does FinHacks across the board now. So if you're interested, definitely ask your account team. But FinHacks are a day that is dedicated to, we usually pick like 3 big optimization topics. And the first half of the day, we spend kind of deep diving in that and bringing in the experts, people that you haven't seen before. And then the second half of the day, each person picks a topic and goes to that breakout session. And then hands get on the keyboard and we try to find savings. And then at the end of the day, someone like Shaown comes in and picks the team that found the most savings, and they get like cool prize or something like that. But our original FinHack was with Shaown, which was pretty cool. Now it is scaled to an overall AWS program that I'm sure, Steph, have you gotten a chance to do any FinHacks yet?
No, I've never done a FinHack. I remember talking to someone about it ages ago and thought it was a great idea, but then I left the company and joined here, so that never happened.
Okay, well,
but one
new
day.
Challenge for you. Yes, new challenge for you.
On that topic, I'm interested, Shaown. So I once, when I was working at KPMG before, I suggested we do this kind of gamification thing. And I was like, challenge the teams to try and cut costs. And a director came back to me and was like, no, because they'll just turn stuff off that's important. So these guys might, just to win, because people are competitive, they might just go in and be like, well, just shut production, just like make it a little too small for today, just so it looks smaller. So was there any prevention in that kind of concepts where you thought you set out any kind of parameters to stop people from doing dumb stuff and actually made them find optimization rather than just cutting costs?
Well, look, number one, mistakes happen. We were super anxious when we did widespread cleanup that we'd make a mistake and break something. And so I'm going to talk about 2 aspects. One is sort of almost the adulting element. I'll get to that in a minute. But the first is what we did as guardrails. And you're going to laugh, but one of the biggest guardrails we did was talk to our business partners, right? Go into our executive committee and tell them, hey, we're doing this. We're going to save the company a ton of money, we hope. And there's a little bit of risk, and it's worth it. And if something had happened, yes, impacting our end customers would not have been very acceptable, but at least we socialized it and explained why up front versus them being surprised. And so that was a bit of a credibility thing, fine. The second part, and I jokingly called it adulting, is, as we move from the legacy world to the cloud world, one of the concepts that we embraced at Dow Jones was a layer of you build it, you own it. That wasn't universal for every team, but it was pretty high rate adoption. And when you had a production problem or outage, the engineering team was often involved in resolving it. So they were fundamentally incented not to break important stuff, not to give up on resiliency, because it was their phone, a legacy pager if they had one, but likely their phone going off at 3 a.m. It was there be on the other side of the bridge with me, dealing with how to fix it. And none of us wanted to do that. We didn't want to spend Saturday on the phone. We wanted to spend Saturday hanging out with our family, or if I'm in New York, out doing something fun. and so that was part of it now. And that's why I think it was more tied to mistakes. And the second thing was, gamification is not your job. And what I mean by that is, while people did want to win and we did incent them and hopefully, think of cool ways to reward them, it wasn't like you're going to go get a huge bonus if you win on one, you're not going to do something risky.
Yeah, this little project.
Yeah, so we swept up a lot of, not the low-hanging fruit, we'd already found that. I'd say sort of the mid-tier. This wasn't the project where we're like, let's go re-engineer how our content publishing system works. This is the project where people are looking around and saying, I could go to a slightly smaller instance size, or I could move this to Aurora, my dev test, to Aurora compute units versus, a pre-built, forever standing set of instances. And that's where most of the win is. The harder stuff, and we can talk about that, how we prioritized working on sort of the complex projects that led to optimization, that's almost it's well beyond the fin hack. Some of the ideas came from the fin hack, but the implementation, that's the whole, we're going to talk about this and prioritize this in sprints type program.
Yeah, and Shaown, let's be honest, you spend your Saturdays watching Grey's Anatomy, probably not being out and about. We all know that you're a big fan.
Hold on, I'm going to correct you. I do not spend my Saturdays watching Grey's Anatomy because I'm actually a big fan. I watch it on Thursday nights. If I happen to be out, I can watch it.
Oh God, what have we entered into? A Twitch show just on TV shows? That's a different channel.
I like it. So just to kind of recap, we're talking here with Shaown. We work with Shaown on a day-to-day basis. He's a great advocate for the optics team at AWS, and he was also my first customer as CIO of Dow Jones. So we're looking at some of the cultural shift that happened at Dow Jones and how he was able to put optimization in play. A theme that I've seen a little bit in some of the stuff we're talking about, Shaown, is the excitement of using new technology, right? So not necessarily making something so it doesn't work, but hey, look at all these cool new things that you have because you're on AWS and they're going to save you money. So you're going to win too. And so now kind of shifting gears a little bit into your current role, what are some of those things, and Steph, curious of what you're seeing too, that your SAs and your teams that are in front of the customers are pushing for optimization to modernize and to use cool new things and get those savings?
Yeah, I mean, Steph, do you want to start? Do you want me to start? What do you think?
No, go for it.
Yeah, I think what's unique in the customers I get to work with day in and day out, and I get to talk to lots of customers, but the set that my team directly supports, many of them are super mature. And that's a good thing. And what I mean by that is a couple of them have fully migrated all their workloads to AWS. They've shut their data centers down. A couple others are leading edge in terms of building out their own services. And now they're starting to think about how they run differently. And there's probably two powerful poles. One is, how do they treat the infrastructure layer differently? And second is, when do they adopt managed services? So we talk about the infrastructure layer first. I mean, the magic word is Graviton. You're hearing about Graviton all the time. And what we're finding is, once you've done that lift and shift or that initial optimization, you're looking at these footprints, you're thinking, how can I pick the right instance types to run my footprint? And that instance type now is expanded beyond just our Intel instances, which we have many of, to AMD and Graviton. And what customers are finding is workloads are better fits for different architectures depending on some interesting sort of dimensions of the workloads. One of them I'll start with is it the same workload running at scale? I.e., I have this one image or one microservice that just scales up, 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 up. So if I do a little bit of optimization work on that base image, I can go and reap incredible savings by putting on a hyper-efficient architecture. And Graviton's been one of those. On the other side of it, if you have a set of applications where, you're running a bunch of maybe legacy agents and you have a whole bunch of third-party software and you can't sort of control the chip optimization, you might break even on Graviton, you might gain a little, but AMD might be an interesting option depending on how it consumes memory and what it does. So looking at that mix, my SAs are having a ton of fun with customers and doing that. Some of the savings we've seen, we have one hyperscale social media customer who's seen upwards of 40% savings with workloads they've moved to Graviton. And they're also excited because they know this means improved power efficiency. And look, in our world today, caring about making the earth a bit sustainable, right? Consuming less power is a good thing. I know it's hard to bridge, but these are higher scale workloads they're running. That savings means something to them. And, having more performant instances is just a win-win. You can end up in cases where your work takes less time to run, consumes less power, and costs you less. Talk about a trifecta with that little upfront engineering. Well, I can talk more about Graviton. We can talk about managed services, but Steph, because that's a fun topic. But Steph, I don't know if you can weigh in.
And I know the example you're talking about, Shaown, and it has been awesome to watch the difference that Graviton has made at that customer, and being able to measure it like instantly because you can just see the difference in the cost and usage. Steph, what about you?
Yeah, you stole my answer. I was going to say Graviton too. I mean, I've just thrown in the chat as well. We did 2 episodes on Graviton. You can check them out on our YouTube channel, Keys AWS Optimization. 2 parts on that and the work that's been going on in the telco world, where telco is quite new sometimes in terms of cloud, and so we've been able to kind of suggest this, and especially with managed services, so more with the kind of RDS side of people being able to just do that flick of the switch changeover and instantly see savings without having to almost change anything has been incredible. But yeah, what about you, Alex? Any new shiny services that you've seen people utilize?
I learned this from you, Steph, and John on our team as well, but the shift to GP3 that we've seen has been like almost as instant as we've seen with Graviton, of customers taking a look and cleaning up volumes and then shifting to GP3 and getting those instant savings, which has been a really cool aspect. And then I think that the more we dive into storage and figuring out, what's been sitting there, I'm sure Shaown has some like horror stories of finding things that were just chilling in S3 for years and years. Oh. But I think people are more willing to clean that up because we've been able to bring that data to them. And I'm interested to see, no pressure on well-architected lab stuff, but what labs we can put in play there to help more and more people get to find, those insights into their storage.
Yeah, definitely. Storage is a big winning area and it's something that when I first kind of came to Amazon, I knew not as much about as I do now. We've done some really good sessions. John and our team, Alex mentioned, has done some great work trying to get him to come on the show. John, come on the show to talk about S3 and EBS. And hopefully that will be pulled into this new lab that we're bringing in so that we can kind of highlight those areas that are really interesting to talk about. And I've thrown in another resource from us, which is a blog post that shows you a bit about how you can identify those GP3 opportunities in your accounts using your cost and usage report. So definitely check that out.
It's funny, as you talk about storage, Alex, it leads to a bit on managed services. People don't think of storage as managed services, but S3 has evolved so much over the years. And when intelligent tiering came out and all the new storage classes, it's really nice when your storage can optimize for you almost, right? Because people used to come to me all the time and say, look, there's all these different types. I don't know when to use it. I don't know what to use. And we show them cost of usage reporting, right? When they're going to use something like intelligent tiering and it just sort of puts things into the right class for you, it can just do the work for you. And you also see that with all of our managed services, and there's too many to go into in the next 5 minutes, probably worth its own session at some point. But I think one thing I'm seeing from our all-in and heavily migrated customers is they're looking at the entire universe of optimization and saying, if I can go move to a managed service for perhaps something I'm running myself on open source, right? Maybe they're looking at Prometheus, maybe they're looking at Elasticsearch. whichever piece, they get to look at the view of not just what the infrastructure costs them, but some of the manual efforts their engineers are making to maintain it. And having that more holistic cost view, that's where I said they've gotten to that maturity level where they're getting to go and look at all those pieces and drive that savings. They challenge our SAs constantly, right, on how can I get, again, all of it, right, improve performance, better resiliency, and lower costs in that whole sort of universe of using managed services. So a fun topic to go deep on as well. But I agree. For most of us, it's lots of infrastructure optimization. We have to do storage, instances, buying savings plans, right? All those decision points.
All the kind of the basic, not basic, but the stuff to get right first before you go into those more granular things. And I think in a future episode, me and Alex are going to talk about an overarching description of like how to start cost optimization and the path we go through. And it does do that. We start off with the high level, and then it goes into the what do we change that's a little bit more technical, but not full re-architecture, and then how you re-architect. Which pulls into a nice little segue. So just to throw this up, we are going to be doing an Ask the Experts. I'm calling us experts. I feel like we should have a different name. Ask us questions. So please feel free to email us costoptimization@amazon.com and send us questions that you want to know, whether it's something small, like what is an RI, or if there's something more complex, if you need advice on. So we're looking for any kind of questions from you all. So please send those in for an episode we're going to be doing in 2 weeks' time. So yeah.
Yes, right. Send all the loaded questions, all the hard ones, and I'll give them to Steph, and I'll just prompt her with them. Well, Shaown, since we're nearing into time a little bit, big question for you, and that I want to make sure people get out of today is you made a huge leap in the cultural shift of optimization, right? And have helped our SAs and our team do the same. So if you could give like one piece of advice for whether someone is C-level or is, an individual contributor at a company, what would you say about that cultural shift and like helping people get in that mindset?
I'm trying to think of a way to say it in a couple words. Maybe I'll say several and see what happens. To me, it is very cultural. It's all about making all of us winners. We all love to win. And, you sort of often cost turns into something adversarial. Your bill is too high. We're spending too much money with you. The CFO is yelling at you. Your cost has gone up. No, this is a win-win-win situation. You make everyone sort of want to jointly invest in spending time to save resources, right? It's because it's not just money. It's power consumption. It's space. It's all of that, right? It's a good thing. So I think coming up with a mindset shift that we're all sort of in this together, engineers, operations teams, business analysts, your account team who actually cares about saving you money. That was one of the reasons I probably ended up here at AWS. There were very few partners I worked with who wanted to save me money like that. Just they usually wanted to make more. and I love that about AWS. So get everyone in the boat with you, make them want to sort of get to the same goal, and it all becomes a lot easier, whichever one of the many methods we're discussing that you end up using.
Yes, that's why our team exists. Thank you for the call out there.
Here to optics. Awesome. Okay, so we're on our last little minute. Any kind of closing statements you want to finish off with, Shaown?
No, I mean, it was really fun. It's almost feels a little full circle for me to get to work with Alex and the beginning of the optics team as a customer, and now get to have them helping my customers day in and day out. It's really pretty fun. And, there's so much to talk about in these sessions. I can't wait to tune into your next episode because I bet you're going to pick some fun topics.
Yes.
My folks to come.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Why don't you should just load us up with questions, Shaown. You should just send them all in.
Yeah, just email us. It's going to be great.
I'll email you back. We'll challenge you up. It'll be good.
Great. And in terms of next week, we'll actually be talking about tagging is going to be the subject we're going to be focusing on. And so Alex did a presentation last year at reInvent that focused a lot about tagging. Make sure that's right. And I've done some recent tagging work in blogs, and we've shared some stuff on labs. So we're going to be diving in there and sharing some kind of best practice about how to get started and what things to look out for. But that is it from us this week. I hope everyone has a good week and see you all later.
Thank you. Thank you, Shaown, for joining us.